Good morning, everybody. We're out here in Bakersfield, California, heading out on the 2013 Sportster 72. And welcome to this week's Throwback Thursday video. This is going to be a little different. NT8 did a video on shoot, no shoot, where he also discussed the stupidity of people who think that officers should be able to shoot to disarm suspects, not shoot to kill them. And about I guess a rash of supposedly unarmed people getting shot. So we'll touch on those subjects in this Throwback Thursday. And he had asked that I weigh in on the subject, so here we go. Now I will try and keep it kind of simple so that everybody can kind of understand it, and in general. But basically you have federal guidelines that tell officers when they should or could shoot or shouldn't shoot. And then on top of the federal guidelines you have individual states that have passed more strict regulations than the federal regs. And then on top of that, you have different departments who have passed even stricter regulations than that. So anytime there's an officer involved in shooting, there will be an investigation. That officer will be taken off the street and put on light duty, basically, or administrative duty, while they investigate the shooting. And it will have to be determined that he was within the department policy, the state guidelines, and the federal guidelines. So that's how all that goes. Now, what exactly is the policy on shoot, don't shoot? Well, like I say, that varies. And with my department, it was basically, if you felt your life was threatened, or the life of somebody else was threatened, then you had the right, if not the obligation, to shoot that person to stop the threat. Now they had specific wording in there. It was, you shoot to stop the threat. It wasn't shoot to kill, because that wouldn't be politically correct. But that's basically what we were trained to do. My department trained us back then. We all had 6-shot revolvers, either 38s or 357s. Now everybody carries semi-automatics. But back then you trained at the range. You drew down, you had a threat, you put 2 rounds in center mass. If the threat was still coming, you put in 2 more rounds in center mass. If the threat was still coming, you put in 2 more rounds, which emptied your gun. You then dumped your empty cartridges on the ground and reloaded with your speed loader and was set and ready to fire again. Now we would go through a lot of practical exercises at the range, doing all kinds of things with multiple targets, single targets, from further away, shorter distances, things like that. But it was basically just standing down range at the firing range and drawing your weapon and cranking off 2 rounds into center mass into a paper target and then doing it again. Now we also had classroom instruction where they taught you all the federal laws, the state laws, and the department regs, so you wouldn't accidentally violate them. That way you knew what they were. And we would also have lectures regarding past shootings, those that were justified and those that were not justified. So there were not that many that were not justified, from what I can recall. And you know, you'd watch the movies. Nowadays, of course, you know, we got all this technology. You can actually go into a room and you're in like a full-scale video where you run through scenarios and you're standing there with a gun that shoots out little laser target things at the video or whatever, and you know, you can actually get real training that way. We didn't have that luxury. We did get to go out to Duffytown one day, which was a sheriff's model town that they used for the SWAT and everything, and we got to train out there. But not everybody got to go through that training. Only certain people did, and everybody else stood around and critiqued what they did. I volunteered to go through it. Like my old man used to say, it was better to make a mistake in training than to make a mistake out on the street. So that was a lot of fun, getting to play cops and robbers in their little fake movie town. So that's pretty much what you got on your shoot, don't shoot. Now the officer has like a split second to decide, is he going to shoot or not shoot? If he hesitates too long, he can end up getting shot, or some other poor innocent civilian in the area can get shot by the suspect. So then the next part of that is, well, why can't you shoot the wound or shoot to disarm him? That is only in the movies. We do not train to do that for real. In real life, you are trained to stop the threat. And the way you stop the threat is by putting rounds into center mass. And the thing is, the rounds that the department issues are so weak that it takes quite a few rounds to stop the threat, because the departments do not want the rounds going through the suspect and hitting innocent bystanders standing around in the background. Now that's the way it was in my day, and I'm sure it's probably still the same way today, I don't know. But you know, you don't want your rounds to go through the suspect and hit some idiot standing in the background with a cell phone videoing you so that he can put it on YouTube and yell, you know, oh, bad cops, they shot this guy and all he did was point a gun at him. He wasn't really going to shoot him. Well, bullshit. How do they know he wasn't going to shoot? Same as the cop. You don't know if he's going to actually pull that trigger or not. You point a gun at a cop, you deserve to get shot. If you come at him with a knife or an axe or a pipe or any kind of deadly weapon and you're threatening his life, you deserve to get shot. Now in my case, I risked my life, and instead of shooting people, I disarmed several of them, took them down physically. And sure, everybody thought, wow, that was great, Rob. Thing is, it could have completely been the other way around. If I hadn't disarmed the guy quick enough and he'd have squeezed the rounds off, or I hadn't disarmed him with that knife, I could have got shot, I could have got stabbed, and then I would have been totally useless to everybody around me. And then he would have been able to get my gun and have another weapon. So, I don't recommend what I did to anybody else. That was just me, and that was because I didn't want to take somebody else's life, even though that was part of the job. So let's get to this bit about, you know, shoot and disarm. You can't do that. It doesn't happen. The only time you're going to hear that an officer shot a guy in the leg or shot a guy in the arm or, you know, that type of thing is because the officer probably missed and hasn't had enough range training for hitting center mass. So I imagine that there are some officers out there who are good enough shots and trained enough that they probably could shoot just to injure, not put the 2 rounds or whatever rounds into center mass. And maybe they do. Maybe that's why some of them are only shot in the arm or the leg. But I would say in most cases, anytime anybody is shot and wounded is because the officer missed his target in the heat of the battle. So, We are trained to shoot to stop the threat. And the best way to do that is by putting multiple rounds in the center mass. Now the other part of his little video was about supposedly unarmed people being shot. Now, have there been some unarmed people getting shot lately? Well, yeah, but you got to look at each case individually and figure out why. Okay, you got some dumb shit standing there with his hands in his pocket and his hands are on something, and the cops tell him, take your hands out of your pockets. He continues to argue with them, and the next thing you know, he turns and jerks his hand out of his pocket and points a cell phone at him. Well, they don't know it's a cell phone. They have a split second to decide. Is that silver shiny object in his hand a gun? Or can they stand there and wait to see if he cranks off a round or two and decide, oh no, it's just a cell phone, because he's a fucking idiot. So no, they shoot to protect themselves and anybody else around them. So if you're stupid enough to pull any kind of an object out of your pocket or have any kind of object in your hand and you point it at an officer that's pointing a gun at you, that's ordering you to drop whatever's in your hand and not move, then you are guilty of your own stupidity and basically deserve whatever happens to you. That's my opinion. So if you don't want to get shot, don't be pointing things at cops that are pointing guns at you and giving you lawful orders to drop whatever the hell it is. And quit carrying around fake plastic guns that look real, or whatever else it is you got. Perfect example of it here in Bakersfield. Not too long ago, we had some older dumb shit who was out wandering around banging on people's doors, and people called the cops because they thought the guy was doing a home invasion or something. Cops get there, he's fumbling with something in his pocket, trying to get it out of his pocket. They are thinking it's a gun because they can't get it out of his pocket. He pulls it out, they see the street light shining off a shiny object, and to them it looks like a gun, so they shoot him and they kill him. Turns out later on he had a stupid cross in his pocket, and for whatever reason he was trying to pull that cross out. I don't know, pointed out the officers, kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a vampires or something, you know, keep the vampires away with the cross, who knows. But I mean, that right there is an example. Another example, a guy burglarizing a store. After he smashes out the window, he's coming out, the cops are drawing down on him, they tell him to stop and drop his weapon. Well, he's got one of them little import car jacks in his hand, and instead of dropping it like he's ordered to do, he points it at the officers. Well, they thought it was like, you know, some kind of Tech 9 or something. So they opened fire on him. Turns out it was just a car jack that looked like in the dark, looked like it was a submachine gun automatic weapon type of thing. And then there are many, many other cases like that where people who do not follow lawful orders by officers end up getting themselves shot. People always bitch and complain and blame the cops for it. It's not the cop's fault. It's the idiot that didn't follow directions, didn't follow lawful orders. And that's the other thing, is that people think, oh, a cop can't tell me what to do. Well, yes, they can. They have the right to give you a lawful order and tell you what to do. And if you don't do what they tell you to do, they have a right to take control of the situation. So, I think that pretty much covers it. You know, when you can and can't shoot. It's just a generalization. It's when your life is being threatened or other people's lives are being threatened, you can shoot to stop the threat. And I'm not going to go into like any, you know, minute details because every department is different. And part about shooting to wound, like I say, that only happens in the movies, not in real life, unless it's by accident. And like there might be a small amount of officers out there who are that good a shot under pressure that they can maybe shoot the gun out of the guy's hand or whatever. Brings to mind that one SWAT video where the SWAT sniper shoots the gun out of the guy's hand. But that's like a totally different situation. But that's not a thing where you're standing face to face with guns drawn. You know, the sniper sitting up there on the hill laying down, taking his time, taking his aim, and shooting the gun out of the guy's hand. And that touches on the part about people that aren't armed with real guns getting shot and killed. Well, people, you just got to get smarter. Start following orders. Stop being an asshole. You don't do anything wrong, and you got no problem. Oh well, that's it for my rant in this Throwback Thursday about shoot, don't shoot. Shooting to wound rather than shooting to stop the threat. And shooting unarmed suspect. I hope most of you liked it. If you did, hit the like button, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments and a lot of anti-comments. And that's the people who did not listen, don't understand, don't pay attention. And if you want, subscribe, come back again next week. I'm about ready to get off the freeway here on my way to work. And see y'all later. Bye-bye.